We all remember the story, at least I think most of us would, about Jesus, who has always seemed to be going out into the wilderness to pray. Now, when I think about that, I keep thinking, well, why would Jesus, God, the Son of God, need time alone to pray and to meditate and to reflect? But when I think about it, he was also a human being, right? And for most of us human beings, we need time to get our heads together. I kind of like that expression because it really expresses a fundamental truth about each of us, is that it's easy for our heads not to be together. We're called to this and that and different values by TV, by friends, by other media, by internet, for goodness sakes, Facebook. They're all pulling us in a lot of different directions. So after a while, our heads may not be together very well. So for Jesus, he didn't live in this electronic age by any means, or this digital age, but even Jesus needed to get his head together at various points so that he knew what his mission was, what his goals were, how he should live on the day-to-day. And so we have time and time again, and Jesus going off into the wilderness to pray. And he was tempted during those times, wasn't he? And at various times had to make decisions when the devil confronted him and said, "Oh, come up to this high place and I will give everything that you see before you." And this is always the temptation of a leader, isn't it? See, if I only do this and make this decision, I will be the ruler of this organization or this company or this state or my family or whatever. Those temptations to power over people are always before us, and therefore, if we want to be the kind of leader, the servant leader that Jesus is calling us to, we have to have self-awareness. We have to know where our head is and what we really believe, and that takes time, and it takes time apart from all the rush of our daily lives. If Jesus needed it, we certainly need it. There's a story in the Old Testament that you all remember, the Hebrew Scriptures, where Adam and Eve have been thrown out of the garden because they ate what they shouldn't have. And we all remember that story. And the next part of it is they're wandering around the garden. Remember that? And they're hiding behind the bushes because they're naked now. And this is a new experience of experiencing themselves as naked. And God is pictured as walking through the garden. And at one point, God says, "Adam and Eve, where are you?" Now, I never thought much about that quote, but later on, at some point, I said, why in the world wouldn't God know where they were? God knows everything. And then I read an explanation of that by Martin Buber, the Israeli philosopher, who said it wasn't that God didn't know where they are, but that Adam and Eve didn't know where they were. And you think about that, everything had changed. Everything. They were now subject to death, suffering. They had to work for a living. Everything was different. And so God asked them that key spiritual question, Adam, Eve, where are you? And it seems to me that for all of us is the essential and most primal spiritual question. Carl, where are you? Because if I don't know where I am, I don't know where I'm going to go either. Think about that. When you have a friend who's coming over for dinner and they've never been to your house before, let's say you moved, and all of a sudden you get this phone call and they say, Carl, I'm lost. Where's your house? And of course the first question you ask them is, well, where are you? Because if they don't know where they are, it's impossible to get them to where you are. And I think that's true, and that's the reason that servant leaders, anyone in leadership, needs to be very aware of this question: where are you? Otherwise, what we tend to do is act automatically. Well, I don't know how I feel about this, but I've got to make a decision. And so we tend to use old answers for new issues and new challenges. And that's dangerous and inefficient and ineffective. So this quality of self-awareness is extremely important for an effective servant leader who knows where she or he stands on things, has their head together, and so when they're confronted by challenges, they know what they really believe and how they should really act based on their deepest values and most important beliefs about life, and where their organization should go, where their family should go, and what is the morally correct and proper way to act. Self-awareness. It's absolutely essential for Jesus. It's absolutely essential for Adam and Eve, and it's certainly absolutely essential for us if we want to be the kind of servant leader that we are called to be by Christ. Thank you.